Thank you guys for joining me.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Yeah. I told you guys that you're making sit down history because this is the first time we've had two guests at the same time.
Okay.
So this is gonna be fun.
Okay.
And I'm always on social media. I'm always looking for people to have on the show.
Okay.
Like that's one of the things. Like when I'm scrolling, I'm scrolling, taking in content. But I'm looking for people that I feel like would be cool individuals to talk to. And then I came across your page. You have a what's your page on social media?
Everything.
Not the profiles, but the
Marriage Can Win.
Marriage Can Win.
We have a Marriage Can Win, and we have a Covenant Kingdom Builders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's like
That's
the
our
online
ministry. Online ministry. Yeah. We used to back in 2006. We used to have conferences.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to have ministry conferences and business conferences.
Okay.
And mostly women ministry conference.
Yeah.
But we had it in Boca Raton. We had one over in
South Carolina.
Wow.
And we were guest speakers over in
Hawaii
and Chicago.
Yeah.
Wow. So Chicago, was it cold?
No, it was during the summer. We're at the McCormick Center.
Okay.
So it was.
Okay. Never been to Chicago. Never been to Hawaii.
Oh, really?
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Does Hawaii look like a screensaver?
You know what? It's really, really nice. We've been there a couple times. Now, was it the second time we went? For the honeymoon?
Oh, the first time.
Yeah, we loved it. It was just so expensive.
Is it?
Yeah, when we went there though, because he would fly back and forth to California
for
work.
For Oracle,
so we had free flight, free hotel, and most of our food was free because he had so many points.
Yeah.
And then it got like almost towards the end of the vacation. We ran out of free stuff. We're like, we're going home.
We had 6 nights and 7 days free.
Yeah.
Wow. And we got to like the 6th day or something. We was like, okay, I'm tired. Let's go home.
That's like when honestly I looked and when it said the waffle was $14 for breakfast, and I was like, for me.
Wow.
And for him, and this is just breakfast. No, we can go home.
We
can go home.
We can go home. Used to everything being free.
Yeah,
we gotta pay now.
Yeah, like no, we can go home.
Nah, that's crazy.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. They have so many things to do there, so many different islands to visit. So I would like to go back.
Yeah.
It's just a long
It's
flight.
a long trip.
To get to Hawaii?
Yeah.
What's that flight like then?
It's like 11 hours or something.
Yeah.
Really? Because we flew from...
I didn't know it was that far.
From South. It's 5 hours flight from California.
Yeah.
And then we had to fly from like South Carolina to Atlanta, then from Atlanta to California, then from California to Hawaii.
Wow.
Yeah. So over the water was about what, 5
hours.
Yeah.
From California.
So.
Wow. I do want to go to Hawaii. I want to visit. I mean, because you see it. I mean, the only island is Honolulu, because that's the one that everybody talks about.
Right.
So, but I never went. I would love to go.
You'll enjoy it.
But I came across you guys' stuff, and I was like, man, this, and I was excited when you hit me back, because I wanted to have you guys on the show, and then I feel like, for me, now that I'm married, I'm starting to pay attention to more marriage things. When you're single, you see marriage stuff and you're but being married is it's a club, it's like a club. So when you hear a married person talking, you're like, yeah, because you can identify with it. So I wanted to have you both on my platform because just to give my viewers that perspective, I feel like, especially during the time we're in with COVID, I feel like the lockdown is doing two things. It's either bringing people together or it's tearing them apart.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I just wanted to have this conversation, with the people just so they can learn something. And I know I'm going to learn something, So I appreciate, you both for having me. We fist bump.
Yes.
Come over here. Yeah, appreciate it. So I guess, man, let's see where you from.
Okay.
Just let the people know a little bit about your personal history and background.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, from you, honey? You want to go first?
You go ahead.
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but raised in South Carolina.
Okay.
And when it was time to go to college, I decided to stay home, closer to home, because my father was sick. He had cancer. But once he got a clean bill of health, I left and I came to Florida.
Okay.
One place that I said I never wanted to go because of the heat. And then maybe less than a year after coming here, I met him, so been 26 years strong ever since.
26 years.
26 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do I look that old?
26 years married, because I feel like, when someone says they're 26 years old, it's just like, oh, you're young. But 26 years being married, that's a feat.
Well, we were actually married. 22 years married.
Oh,
we
22
met 26 years ago. So 4 years is different. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
dating.
22 years.
Yeah, we dated for 2 years, got engaged the first 2 years.
Okay.
And then got married in 4 years. So it took us 4 years to get married.
Yeah.
4 years?
Yeah.
Now, who made it 4 years? Was it you, or
It's me.
was it mutual?
No, it's me.
Oh, you? You was like, not yet?
Well, honestly, my father was from the perspective, once you get married, you're his responsibility. And to be honest, I was one of those I was the only child, so I was spoiled.
Yeah.
So he was ready to get married, and I said, no, I didn't want to get married right then and there, because he was graduating from school. And I said, well, if you're just graduating from school, then we get married. My father's like, you're on your own. That's putting a lot on him. I'm still in school. He's just graduating. So that's pretty much giving him 2 households to support just coming out of college. And I didn't think that was fair to him. I wanted some time to finish school so that I could contribute to the household or let him get on his feet, and then we do it together.
That's real, though.
Yeah.
That you thought like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? I know you're going to have to carry this.
Yeah.
So let me just make this a little bit easier. And as a man, I can respect that. I can respect that. So where are you from originally?
So I was born in St. Petersburg, and I was raised in Fort Pierce, and pretty much lived there all my life until I moved to Tallahassee, where I met her. But actually, before I came to Tallahassee, I was here in Orlando at UCF. Was on football scholarship about 2 years.
Wow.
And then decided not to play more football and just do school. And then it was like, well, you got to pay back your scholarship. So, so I ended up moving back down to Fort Lauderdale, lived with my sister for about 2 years? Yeah, about 2 years. So I went to school at the community college there and worked at night. And then finally after that, my mom was like, okay, you're getting too caught up in working, and you down there just running amok with all the nightclubs and everything. You going to Tallahassee to go to school. So, and then I came to FAMU, and I just knew, I was like, okay, when I'm going to FAMU, I had heard so much about FAMU. It was like, 10 or 8 women to one man. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to meet my wife there. Like, I'm sure meet a lot of women. And sure enough, I met my wife.
Wow.
In the parking lot of Gaither Gym. That's where I met her, and I was just coming from the libraries, from studying, and I was backing up, and I looked to the left, and I saw this pretty girl with this AKA on her shirt, and I was like, oh, she one of them stuck up girls, some sorority girls. And but I said, I'm gonna say hello to her.
Shoot my shot.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do here. And then from there, we actually, our first date was on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So was ours.
Really? Wow. Valentine's
Day. Yeah.
Don't tell me you took her out to Chili's.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Because I took her out to Chili's.
Okay. No.
And it was funny, right? Because it was one of them Eddie Murphy clicks.
Oh my god.
Right? Because we got down to the last little bit of food, right? And I had ribs, and I think she had wings. And I was down to the last wing. I said, "Sweetheart, you want this last wing?" And she goes, "No, you can have it." And I was like, "All right."
So I'm gonna take that wing.
She like, "Why you ate the wing?" I said, "I asked you, did you want the wing?" And you said no.
The expectation is you're taking someone out on the first date. You don't just offer once and eat it. You're like, nah, you go ahead. He was just like, okay, and he ate it, and I was like, you gotta be kidding.
No, that's real. I asked.
Yeah. You know how Eddie Murphy talk about the salad eating.
Yeah, the salad eaters. That's cool though.
Yeah.
That's cool. So like, when now, how long before you knew like, okay, I'm gonna marry her?
Man, it was really different because at the time I was just enjoying the 8 to 1.
Right.
I was dating all kinds of women. I remember I was dating a Delta from Florida State. And I still had girlfriends calling me from South Florida. And I mean, I was just player.
Yeah.
And then when I met her, it was just something different about her.
Right.
And I was like, wow, you know. And then we just started dating. And, you know, all the rest of them just dropped off. I just like, okay, you know, we done with all of them. And then it was amazing because she tells the story. She can tell you the story. She was testing me. She was like, I'm gonna call him like 1 o'clock in the morning to see if his girlfriend over there. And I picked up the phone and she like, you know, she was thinking, well, he must be dumb. You don't answer the phone with your girlfriend over there. You know, what you doing? You know. And I'm like, nothing. She's like, or something. I don't know how we got to talking on the phone, and then we came to picture up. We went to the lake and just talked. But yeah,
I was just testing you to see, because he's an attractive guy. So you know a lot of women are going to be trying to talk to him. So I wanted to see, was he really for real or not?
Right.
So I did some weird stuff. I call him all times in the night. I call him like 1 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing? Nothing. Come get me. Let's go talk. I expected him to be like, come up with an excuse. Well, nah, I can't. And I thought I'd be able to say, yeah, he has a girl over there.
Right.
But literally, he never told me no. Whenever I called, he came, and it's like we would spend hours talking. Be till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, sitting there at the lake talking about our future, what we want to do.
Wow.
We just were always talking, and I love that about him. So I was like, okay.
That's big, and talking. Period.
Yeah.
You know, I when you're dating or when you're trying to get the woman and you're trying to do all that, you know, you talk a lot.
Yeah.
And when you're married, it's kind of hard to still have that talking because things happen.
Yeah.
You know, you get each other's nerves, you hurt one another, and in any way, shape, or form, and it makes the communication hard. I was sitting down with a guest, and we were just talking about, you know, how when him and his wife got, you know, decided to get married. And I asked you because as men, you know, we know if we want to marry when if we're thinking in the realm of marriage, you know, we know we want to marry a woman. Like for me, like 5 or 6 months in, I knew I wanted to marry her. I didn't ask her at that time, but I knew I wanted to marry her. So at that point in time, I'm doing things and taking things in a direction where I'm eventually going to propose. So that's why I asked you, because like, you know, is there, so I guess, I don't know, it's weird. Like, do you think that, you know, it's too soon, you know, to like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna marry this person. You know, do you think that is something that people should probably look at, but like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm gonna wait a little bit, or should you just follow that?
For me, it was just something about her that I knew she was just different,
right?
Because she was just a pretty girl, and at the time she was, you know, pre-med. She was going to a med school, and she was just AKA spoiled little princess, and you know, and it was just something about her. She was sincere, though. You know, I enjoyed being with her.
Right.
I just enjoyed having her around in my presence, and that was just something that was different, and I enjoyed that about her. I mean, I told her, I said, look, let's just go study together. I just want to be with you. Right. And so that was different, you know, for me. Just wanted to be with her, and it made me happy just having her with me. Yeah. And she was just sincere. It was just like we were always together, even like now, we're just always together. And I enjoyed having her. She just became my best friend, and I enjoyed talking with her. So it was different. So I just knew there was something special about her. And then so as time progressed, we spent so much time together. I was just like, okay, I know. We were riding in the car and I said, girl, I think I'm in love with you. And she never said anything. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I was laying down in the car and she was driving. I said, I think I done fell in love with you. And she wouldn't say that. And I'm like, okay, must be a one-sided thing there.
Wow.
You want to figure out where somebody's heart is and give them an opportunity, to kind of demonstrate that they're serious about the relationship. And like you were saying with COVID, it for some couples, spending a lot of time together is something different for them. They're accustomed to work. They have their own routine. So then you come home and this person, and like some of the wives I was talking to, they're like, you know what? He's always there. and it got, you have in your mind your own plan and how you do things. I know how my day is where he didn't work from home.
Right.
So when he's home, it throws a monkey wrench in your program.
Right.
But then there's always a reminder. I used to think about the times where I prayed where I could spend time with him. Because for the first couple of years in our marriage, we lived in 2 different cities. I was finishing school in Tallahassee, and he lived here in Orlando. So we only got to see each other on the weekends. So, after 2-3 years of that, when you're in the same city and much less able to see each other, I was like, I can look at it, or you can look at it one or two ways. You can look at it as a blessing, or, it's something that's aggravating. But do we get on each other's nerves like every other couple? Absolutely.
Right.
But then I'm like, you know what? I'm thankful that I have this time to spend with him, because I spent so many years with my job and working these crazy hours, 6 days in a row, 13 hours back to back to back, to finally be able to just say, hey, you know what? If I want to have lunch with him, he's right in the other room. Yeah. So it's kind of perspective, but I have my space. He has his space, and there are times where I'm like, I can't do it today, so I can go in another room. But he's there, So
I think it's just it's about just getting used to or getting familiar with who you're with, because like when we got married, we didn't live together like prior to. Okay. And I know people feel different ways about that, but we didn't live together. Okay. So when we got married, it was like, now you're in this cohabitation, and it's every day. It's not going anywhere, right? So you just kind of have to get used to a new normal. And I think COVID, people have this. They already, like you were saying, they have this routine already, right? And they have their space. They have their time, and you really don't know how, important, alone time is, or even just like space. Right. You don't really realize that. And then now COVID has forced people together, and you kind of have to get used to that new normal. Now, you both work together on the ministry side. Oh, I wanted to ask this though. So when you guys were dating, where did God come into play? Or when did God come into play? Or was God always into play?
God was always into play, because when I first met my husband, the only reason I talked to him is because God told me to. Really? Yeah, I had, it's a long situation, but just suffice it, I was dating someone, went through like a pretty bad breakup, and said I was just done. And then lo and behold, it's like, I heard, be nice to everyone you meet today, which was, I'm like, oh, I'm getting dressed. I'm like, be nice to everyone you meet? Whatever. Get dressed, go to class. I'm leaving class. And that's when Eric passed by, and I got a note from one of my friends on the car, and just kind of reminded me of the whole breakup situation. So I got mad all over again. And then he backs his car up. So of course I'm getting ready to blow him off, like, I am not in the mood for this today. And right when I was getting ready to open my mouth to tell him to go away, I heard again, be nice to everyone you meet today. So when he started talking to me, that's when I shifted, was like, okay. So then I was listening to what he had to say. Then we exchanged numbers. And it took us a while, a couple weeks, to actually be able to hang out. So our first date was actually Valentine's Day. Yes. So,
wow. Yeah, I had invited her over to Super Bowl. Yeah. Because I had one of my best friends over.
You said you wanted to do it?
I didn't know him that well.
Yeah, so I had one of my friends over, and he brought 2 girls. And I had cooked some brownies and stuff, and the girl was just eating all my brownies, and she wasn't attracted at all. And I was like, man, why you gonna bring some girls over? Bring some nice looking girls.
Right.
But I had called her before that he was bringing them over, and then trying to get her to come over and to. I guess you didn't realize I had more people over, and it wasn't just going to be you and I.
Okay.
I had not Moses but Malcolm over.
Yeah.
But anyway, she just wouldn't come over. I was like, I ain't gonna bite you. I got people,
Well, you didn't. Well, that wasn't made clear to me. But then you still have to get to know it. And that's what happened when you're coming into relationships. You bring this baggage with you. I still had that chip on my shoulder. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I'm automatically kind of lumping him in that same situation. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know you. Yeah. All I know is I heard something say, be nice to everyone. So I was nice. That's it.
I
didn't hear it go anywhere. I was being nice. But, I mean, he was honestly a good conversationalist. I like talking to him on the phone. So I agreed to go out with him on Valentine's Day.
That's cool.
So it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So y'all work together as far as like, of course the books, we're gonna get into the books, but ministry and so what has that been like as far as like, working together? For
me, it's a process.
Yeah.
Learning because we have such different personalities. Mm-hmm. He's outgoing. He's a risk taker. I'm more so like, this is how it works. Let's keep going with it. And, he's the type that's like, you know what? I had an idea. Let's do this. Or like if we're going to record a show, hey, you know what? And he'll switch everything around. And I'm like, wait, I'm the type that I need to dot every I, cross every T. I need to have everything written out, and then he'll switch it up. But that stepping outside of your comfort zone, it's a good balance.
Yeah.
So he brings out the fun side of me. If not, I would be like work all the time.
Really?
He's the type that'll be like, you know what? Today we're not doing anything. Get in the car. Let's go.
We ain't doing nothing.
Yeah. I'm like, you mean what? Don't you know we have to do this? He said, look, we got to live. Let's just go. So, I mean, we balance each other out that way. But he's the spontaneous part of them.
Yeah, and when you talked about God, I grew up in the church pretty much all my life. Mm-hmm. I remember experiencing some things in church. I'm like, wow, this is like the television show. Exorcist. I was like, oh my God, this is real. But I actually drew her closer to God. And
he did.
And when we started doing ministry, and she'll tell you, but I just embraced the Holy Spirit so much. And the Holy Spirit was like, I did so much studies on the Holy Spirit and wanted to become not only a teacher, but a demonstrator of his power.
Right.
And we had to do our first 10-minute, what they call trial sermons or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
This is where we were in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And in front of all these other big pastors and stuff, whatever. We had 10 minutes. And she would spend all night writing down her outline and reading. And I read a little bit, and then I was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
And she's like, you better prepare. And so we get out there and we open up. And I go to teaching, boom. And she looked at me like, now you talk.
I wanted to choke him. Because I literally stayed up that night before I was preparing. I had my outlines. I had my scriptural references. I was just like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And he looks at the Bible a little bit. And he prays and prays and prays. And then he goes to sleep. I'm still up stressing. Like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to do this in front of all these people. And then for all that, he gets up there, and then God gave him the same message I've been stressing over that whole night. So he gets up there and starts delivering my message, and then looks at me. I'm like, what am I supposed to say? So I literally was like, okay, God, you gotta be kidding me. Right. So I said what I had to say, but I was so mad the whole time. How am I gonna be giving a trial sermon and you gave it to him? Something not right, God. So it was just, it was a learning process.
Yeah.
But one of the things I can say about him, he's always kept our family focused on God.
Wow.
I mean, he's an inspiration to me because I wasn't always in church. I went to church when I was younger with my grandmother, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But
I didn't really have a relationship. I went to church, but I didn't have a relationship with God. I didn't really understand who God was. And for him, when he started really, I'd say when he turned his life back over to God, and I did too, and he'd be studying the Word, and he had such a peace about him. And I mean, there was chaos going on. That's when 9/11 happened. So much. And he had a peace about him. And it made me angry because I didn't have that kind of peace.
Yeah.
And he was like, babe, just get in your Word. Read your Word. And I'm like, seriously? I was just like, I would leave and go to work. And he'd come home. I'd come home. He's still in the same place 8 hours later reading the Word.
Wow.
8 hours. And I'd come in like, you couldn't have put the chicken in the oven or something? You didn't take a break? And he was like, he was deep in the Word. And I was so frustrated, and to the point where I was like, I want the kind of peace you have. And he would just encourage me, get in the Word and pray. And that was just, the best time of our lives.
Wow.
Just growing, to have someone who not only stimulates you, just to have fun and step outside your comfort zone, but can draw you closer to God. So
wow.
To set the tone, we were in a townhouse in Apopka, and we were getting ready to purchase our first home, and we had just put down $10,000 on the house, and it was in the process of being built, and I lost my job, got laid off. It had been about 9 months, and then 9/11 happened, and that made it even worse.
Wow.
And then, was that the time when you had just gotten pregnant?
I was pregnant too.
Lost my job. 9/11 happened. We were trying to move into our next house.
I was pregnant.
And the income was, to qualify for the home, you had to both income at the time. 'Cause I think you had just started working, or you were interning.
No, I had just gotten my license as a pharmacist.
Right, just started working. So we needed 2 incomes. And I remember when we were laying in bed watching TV, and the 9/11 act happened. I called my sister. She said, just read the Word and start at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and continue.
Wow.
And I did. And, I had been in church all my life. And I started reading. I was like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar, like when I was in church growing up. And I just kept reading. Right? And after a while, I kept reading. I started feeling His presence.
Wow.
And then when I started feeling His presence, it just grew stronger. And I would just sit there and just continue to read it. The more I read, the more I remembered what I just, as a child, heard in church and growing up as a teenager. And it became real. And then I started feeling His presence. And I was like, wow, this is real stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And it's amazing how life was bounced around.
Yeah.
I get speechless because there's so much.
Yeah.
If I can, I'll reveal this too. I had, as we moved forward, right when we were getting ready to close, also I had child support.
Yeah.
I had to pay child support, and they were trying to actually increase my child support. Now, I was unemployed for 9 months, and I had to go to court.
Wow.
And the mother was trying to increase my child support, and my lawyer's like, why are you trying to increase it when he has no job? And I was about to finish up in like 2 months. I was 18 years of paying child support, and she still wanted to increase it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we got to the court, and because at the time I had gotten a really good job making 6 figures and stuff, but I got laid off. And the lawyer that was trying to, for her was like, hey, he made so much of thousands in 3 months. He has the ability to pay more. And I'm like, how am I have the ability to pay more? And I've been unemployed for 9 months.
Right.
So needless to say, that it didn't happen. As soon as we got back home, because it was in Fort Pierce, and I had to go back to Fort Pierce. As soon as we got back here, the phone rang. And I picked up the phone, and it was a job interview.
Wow.
Right, just like that. And I got back employed, and then we ended up moving in. And
wow.
Yeah, I mean,
so
God worked it out just like that. And,
Wow.
And that's a whole nother story. But
But He had peace through that whole situation.
I mean, literally, God is just, he orchestrated everything in my life.
Yes.
'Cause I'm going to reveal something else too. After about 37 years, and this is after I became filled with the Holy Spirit, with the evidence of speaking in tongues and all that stuff.
Right.
God, through a dream, told me that my father was not my father. And I was like, what? You serious? And the voice was through my sister. So I called my dad. I said, who's my daddy? He said, well, your father is a Cuban and your mom is African American.
Wow.
Oh, no, actually, I'm sorry. My mom was a Cuban and your father's African American. I was like, you serious?
Yeah.
And let me back up a little bit because I had done the research on my last name, Hylick. And I was like, when I did the research, I found Hylicks all over the United States. And I was calling them and say, hey, my daddy's name is this and this and this. And I started finding the history of Hylicks. And one lady said she had to research all the way back to the 1800s where the name Hylick came from. And it was almost like Jesus. Like she said, the slave got freed, and the slave master said, do you want to keep your name or you want to get a new name? He wrote in the dirt, Hylick. I'm keeping Hylick or something. And that's how the name Hylick came from that point.
Wow.
But, and so here I am, I'm researching all this about my history. I'm like, wow, ancestries and this and hearing all about this. And I'm like, wow. And then all of a sudden I found out I'm adopted.
Wow.
I felt so lost at that point. Because here I'm thinking I'm a lineage of here.
Right.
And then to come to find out I'm half Cuban. And I'm like, well, what? And then I think about it. Okay, so God bounced me around. Somehow in St. Petersburg is where I got adopted from. And so he had me to be born Cuban and African American, adopted by a family in Fort Pierce, raised in Fort Pierce amongst all these ministers and pastors.
Right.
So now I'm thinking, that's where I got introduced to who Jesus Christ was.
Yeah.
Now, if I had been a Cuban, I could have been introduced to Santeria, Catholicism, all kinds of different religions, and who knows what or where. And then to be raised in African American home in a small town called Fort Pierce, go to school, meet this young lady, get married, and to be where we are now, have these 2 kids and actually 4 kids. Wow. So things could have been different. And my whole life would have looked different. But when God had me to be born, then raised, adopt, and it would just blow my mind. But then, oh God, when I really got acquainted with the Holy Spirit, and I met this older lady, was an evangelist called Mother Christine Moore. She came and really, when we were in Boynton Beach, she came over and she began to pray and prophesy to us, and was just imparting into us, and we was like, wow. And that's where we got thrust into ministry. And I had been studying for a while Romans 8 and Corinthians. It talks about the Holy Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit and all these things. And I was like, and then I was exposed to so many people who used to pray in tongues. And I was like, oh my God, that would be so awesome to do that. Yeah. And I'm like, how do I do that? And I was like, well, they're like, you have the Holy Spirit. They was telling my sister would tell me. People I said, why can't I speak in tongues? Why can't I speak in tongues? And they say, well, in time will happen. And time happened. But anyway, long story short, we were living in Boynton Beach, and then the hurricanes came through and knocked all our power. I came back to Fort Pierce, and there was a revival there, and this evangelist was there. And for some reason, I was just thanking God. I had my eyes closed. I was thanking God for bringing us through these hurricanes. And somebody tapped me on my shoulder, and I looked up, and Mother Moore was standing over me, and she hugged me. And when she hugged me, I heard these tongues. And I looked around like, who was speaking in this? And there was a little girl looking at me like this. And after a while, I was like, oh, that's me. I didn't realize it was me.
Oh, wow.
I mean, because it had been years had passed by. Yeah. And I couldn't, it's not like I could make it happen.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it was was me. And I was like, oh my God. I was overjoyed because I had been wanting that gift for so long. I mean, a couple of years had gone by.
Yeah.
And when it happened, my God, I just thought it was the world. I was like, oh my God, it was just so awesome.
Yeah,
But,
that's crazy.
And then, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just laughing at you because of course that was another situation in ministry where I'm like, okay, why does he get to speak in tongues and I don't?
It was just such a big deal because it was like,
I felt like the outsider, like this is so not fair, God.
yeah.
But you grow, but it just inspires you to keep
Exactly.
just walking in your path. Everybody's path is going to be different.
Yeah.
And God has a plan for each one of us. So
I just think it was really cool how it's cool how your lives were orchestrated, to meet. No, you guys are John Maxwell certified
John
teachers. What is that about? I know the name John Maxwell. Where do I know John Maxwell from? Who is John Maxwell?
well, he was a pastor, but he's one of the world's thought leaders on leadership. He has all
Okay.
kinds of books.
Okay.
The 50 Invaluable Laws of Growth, leadership. He does a lot with leaders, and he has a certification program that you go through, and it teaches you how to pretty much how to be a coach, how to be a trainer, how to be a speaker, but it's based on biblical principles. And you have people from, a lot of times, even when we went through the program, there were like thousands of people there.
2,000 people from all over the world.
coming in.
Yeah.
So
He's got so many top-selling books on leadership training and mentoring and teaching and just to get to meet so many different people. I mean, Romania, all of them, and they're part of the program.
Wow.
And it's just really great. And the training we did was really great. We sat at a table with a pastor. He was a minister, becoming a pastor.
yeah.
Actually, Big John was a pastor.
Yeah.
And then the other guy was part of a ministry.
Oh, Tim though. The
Yeah.
guy, yeah.
And,
You get to meet people from
you
all
get to
over.
meet people from all over.
Yeah.
And,
And we go through the process together.
yeah.
So
Where was that at?
they held it actually in Orlando. They changed their locations, but
The
I
World
think-
Marriott?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was a couple years ago,
Like
but
off
it
of
was
535 or 545, something like that.
That's cool.
yeah.
Now, what are you guys, where are you teaching at? Like, is it just where you guys like tour teaching, or you go to different seminars, or like, how do you use that?
Well, we use it, because we work with married couples. We still teach. We teach biblical principles.
Right.
We incorporate teachings in regards to marriage, the sanctity of marriage, how to handle conflict resolution, how to rebuild trust,
that's a big
overcome obstacles. But then we also incorporate biblical principles on
Right.
it. So it teaches you how to communicate your message effectively. So
To give you a little history, that time when back in 2006, 2005, when we met Mother Moore, that thrust us into where we are now. We began a ministry called Covenant Kingdom Builders at that time. And that's when we started working with couples in ministry.
yeah.
Through ministry at that time. And then when we became part of a church, we were part of the church marriage ministry. But during that time, we had conferences all over the place. We would have women's conference. We had a business conference. And we brought in the financial at the time, Kingdom Financial speakers
Like
and
Crown Financial.
Crown Financial, and then Larry Brunson.
Yeah.
He was I think he was one of those financial services companies. And so from there we were just kind of thrust into working with couples. And so we started doing we started getting formal training. So we got a formal training and certification for life coaches. And then one young lady, Valerie Burton's a very popular lady out of Atlanta, we went through her her certification and training for life coaches as well. And then we got certified as marriage facilitators, and then we did the John Maxwell certification. So we have like multiple speaking and coaching certifications.
Right.
And then the most recent one is by Andy Henriquez.
Oh yeah, master
And
storyteller.
he's the master storyteller, and he was trained by Les Brown. And so that was the most recent certificate. But the thing was, we learned that in order to add value to someone else, you have to have value to yourself. So the more value that we add to ourselves, the more value we can add to someone else.
Right.
So we got all those trainings. And then when we had our last conference we had here at the Hyatt Regency on International Drive. We were doing the Game Changer experience. Yeah. And it started out we were just going to have a couples, but couples weren't really coming in, mostly individuals. So, and so we was like, we're gonna have a men's session, we're gonna have a women's session, and we invited Edward Jones, financial company, to come in to do the financial piece. We brought in a sex therapist. We brought in some licensed, family therapists, and it was amazing because a lot of people who were coming were pastors and stuff. What were you gonna say?
The men got jealous. It was gonna actually. We talked about doing a couples retreat, and then I talked about doing something for the women. And he's like, "Oh, this is." He's like, "Oh, this is dope. I gotta do something. What about the men?" I was like, we got them involved, and we invited several pastors. We had coaches and facilitators, and we wanted to just be able to pour into them because you have lots of people that are operating in positions of leadership, but they're at home. They're struggling in their marriages. Learning to manage their businesses. So that's why we had the financial aspect. We had a representative from Edward Jones there, and we had the sex therapist because when you're married, we want them to understand that you have people out there that excel and they're killing it in the business arena, but at home, their marriage is kaput. And we wanted to be able to equip them with the tools that they needed. And some, because I'm pastor such and so, bishop such and such, they're embarrassed because they're struggling in their home.
Right.
So we wanted to create an environment in which people could come in and get the help that they needed. The average pastor is not going to say, "Oh, I need to talk to a sex therapist." But when you have them there at a conference and you have a personal session for the men and for the women, and she met with the men. Because if you're sitting side by side with your wife and you're having issues with your sex life, you're not going to say, you're not going to want to point at her. But at least if you're in a closed environment with other men, the lady that we brought in, she's dynamic, and she had the men open up. I kid you not. The women, we were through with all of our teaching sessions. The men were still in session with the sex therapist. We were like, the hotel said we have to get out. And they were literally still in there. So
you got to unpack with men because we'll keep it in there, but when it opens up, it's a deep box because we don't open up.
They weren't scared. They were opening up.
Because they wanted their help.
Because she was doing a session with us, and then she wanted to do a session with the women. We had men say, "Hey, you need to tell my wife. You need to tell my wife, to do so and so."
I literally have so many happy couples. They ask us, when you're having your next event, is that lady coming back? So we've done some work with her. We've interviewed her on our show, and we're going to do some more with her.
Yeah.
So
that's dope. And we were on the phone. We were talking about your event. When you guys do your events, I want to be a part of that. Even if it's media related, like just come in and just like capture the moments and interview some of the people, man. Because I think that's huge. Like when people are doing things, when you're doing something to like capture those moments. And then you get people's feedback and stuff like that. Like I'm big on that, and I like media.
Oh, that's
I like
awesome.
Where you're talking about like, you this pastor, you're doing this, you're this bishop, and then your marriage is struggling. So one of the things that I've learned, because we had a ministry, right? We had a ministry going, and I did a lot of preaching and things like that. We did it together. We did teach together at one point. We did a teaching on the kingdom, right? We did a teaching on the kingdom, and we did it together. And then I would preach in different places, do things like that. And I think the biggest thing with doing that is you have to turn off bishop. You have to turn off pastor. And you have to go home and you have to be husband or wife. And I think a lot of people, especially believers, that's why I love what you guys do, what you two do, especially believers. We kind of have a hard time turning off that spiritual and just like embracing the natural because you're here right now. And those things and especially sex. I believe like as a believer and then you're married, like you should be having some of the best sex. And I just because do it. Like,
Right.
turn off this. You don't have to kick God out, but like, I mean, come on now. We ain't tired of speaking tongues. Turn that holy off.
Yeah.
Like, turn
Put
it
on
off.
We ain't gotta hear.
We hit
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't have to listen to John P. Key or somebody around. We trying to get. We can put on some Luther or Methodist or
There you
something.
go.
Yeah, there you go. Like, hey, we listen. You know,
Whatever.
okay, let's
Some
stop.
jazz or something. I ain't trying to.
Something. No.
Love you,
like,
Jesus, but.
Right? You know, you don't have to
Right.
prophetess. Like, I know you can do all that.
Yeah.
You know, but I need you right now.
That's right.
You know, and I think that's important though, and you should have fun with it. For my generation, it's either gonna be Trey Songz or that's about it. Trey Songz does it. He gets the job done.
Oh, okay.
What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I'm gonna say that's a struggle a lot of times because you have to learn when to take off that hat.
Yeah.
You know, you have to learn it in ministry because that was a problem for us because he was flowing in ministry and my schedule, I was at work all the time. So I went through that period where I was harboring resentment because I'm like, God, you're using him and I just get to go to work, really. You know, that was my attitude.
Right,
and
right.
you know, God had to remind me, and it took me a long time to process it, that,
Right.
you know, this is his season. This is how I'm using him. And I have something, you know, I know the plans I have for you,
Right.
but you got to be able to learn to walk in it. And we had to learn to, you know, I had to learn when to take that hat off. Meaning he would flow in that ministerial role a lot. And I'd have to be like, okay, right now I'm mad at you.
Yeah.
So I need put the minister role on. I don't want to hear no scripture right now because but we had to learn and he had to remind me, okay, you're a pharmacy manager, but when you come home, you're my wife. Don't come here giving me 20 tasks to do by the end of the day because I'm not having
turn
it.
boss chick off.
Yeah, and I had to learn because we were butting heads that way.
Yeah.
And it's a process, but for couples to learn that you can overcome it, but it's going to take some time. You got to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did a Facebook Live talking about that. I was like, and it was called, Why Are You Still Single?
Oh, yeah.
And I started talking about, and we're going to specify it. So we have a lot of women who are pastors, ministers, deacons, you know, big time in the church leaders. And you got some, you know, a lot of women who are vice presidents, directors, CEOs, and business owners, and you can do everything you want to do.
Right.
But why are you still single? So, and I said the majority of the issue is you don't know how to turn off your boss chick, your ministry pastor, whatever it is, and when you come home, you need to be biblically correct. Leave your position, your office that you walk in, whether it's a corporate or a pastor, whatever, that's an office you operate in.
Right.
When you come home and you married, you now come woman, man, husband, wife.
Right.
You're not boss chick. You're not vice president of corporation. You're not pastor, minister, deacon, or whatever, or leader of the usher board, whatever. When you come home, you wife.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to turn that off. But if you come on, you try to be boss chick and boss and step over your husband,
Yeah, that was
you out of order.
That ain't gonna work.
And so you always want to be dictating what he need to do and this and this and that. That's why you by yourself.
Because you want to run everything.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, but then, you know, it's a lot to that dynamic why women are single, and the dynamics are changing now.
Yep.
Because now they say we can't find a nice black man, so now you see mixed couples. That's big now. You start seeing, well, black men, white women, but now you see a lot of black women with white men or other, you know, cultures. And they say, well, the black man can't find a good black man.
Right.
Or they've been hurt by so many black men.
Yeah,
that's a whole.
I think that's one of the major parts.
That's why we did a radio show. Is the importance of the family structure, part 1 and part 2, and I need to go. I need to carry that even further. And that's because if you think about it, in the 60s, and I went back and got statistics. In the 60s, it was about 70% of families were both parent families. And so when a child was born, they were born into a father and a mother.
Right.
First marriage, not second, third, fourth marriage. And they grew up, and so they had a parental structure. They saw a mother, they saw a father. But nowadays, it's down about 40%.
Yeah.
You know?
Really?
That percentage.
Right. The percentage of first when a child is born is,
Right.
you know, both fathers. Now it's single mom, you know, or you may have some single dads that are carrying the situation. And so, you know, when you look at that, you know, how you train up your kids.
Right.
And if your kids don't see both parents, and if they're not taught, and see, it's the parents' responsibility to teach the kids how to respect the woman, how to respect the man, teach them how to be a gentleman, or a gentle woman,
Right.
and to teach them what's right, what's wrong. Teach them about love. Teach them about sex.
Right.
Teach them about how to take care of one another. You see mommy and daddy together, affectionate, communication, you know, and to teach them when they're young that you can't have everything. You know, you got to teach them the boundaries.
Right.
You know, you just can't just give them everything. Then they expect that they can just do anything. There's no boundaries.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what's wrong with America now is, you know, all these people out here, they don't know what love is, they don't know what respect is.
Right.
I mean, just a human being to respect another
Right.
person, regardless of
Right.
his color or whatever, you know, respect them. What you want to say?
Well, I was just thinking about the fact that we're living in a generation, it's like a microwave generation. Everybody wants everything right now.
Yep.
They're not willing to wait and work for it.
Yep.
Even down to dating. Now, before it's like you would get to know the young lady, you would take her out. Now everything's a text. You know, and if you're not available, I'll text your friend. If you're not
Right.
available, I'll text the girl down the street.
Right.
It's just no patience. And we're not creating a standard, you know, and no disrespect to men, but you have so many options now.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, fine, I'm done with you. How about your
Yep, I'm
friend?
over
You
here.
know?
Right.
So,
But you know, this generation too, the girls, the women, they don't even care. You don't have to be my boyfriend, and they
don't
just
have
want to
to.
have sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
You don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to.
And I think it's like what you were saying, the microwave generation. And I think I believe the family unit is like so diluted
right,
that because you learn life at home.
right,
And whatever you do at home, you bring to the rest of the world.
yeah.
And the issue is the home. I can't even sit here and blame schools. I can't even sit here and blame society. You can't blame technology. You can't do any of that. Like, it's literally at home. All of us, every single one of us, we're living out our childhoods. You know, we're living out what we learned within the home. And then you go out into the world, and then you either take on, you know, you either add, you know, the world to what happened at home, or you don't let it interfere with your foundation. And I think that for me and my wife, especially for us, man, like the biggest thing is that foundation in our children. Like that's huge for us. And for me, you know, that's big for me. And I don't know everything. Like I come from divorced parents, and your mom's working. She's in school too, because you know, I was born in the 80s, and you guys know what the house was like around that time.
Yeah.
You know, 80s, 90s. It's just like, you know, dad's working and doing that, and then mom is staying at home. You know, then, you know, and that's what women did. You know, so now my mom divorced. Now she got to go get a job, but she got to go to school. She has to get that education. So now she's working and going to school. You know, you got the kids at home. You know, what you gonna do? So I was basically raised by the siblings, but it did bring us siblings together though.
Yeah.
Like we're extremely close. But you know, so for me, it's just like I want to be in my kids' life.
Yeah.
I want to be in their face. Like I want them to, Dad is here.
Yeah.
Daddy loves you. You know, because I told my wife the other day, I said, when you know that you're loved, when kids know that mommy and daddy love them, like they might not like us all the time because we're gonna, like you said, boundaries.
Right.
I'm gonna set them boundaries.
Right.
You know, but when they know they have that love, they can go back to mommy and daddy. You just move through life different.
Yeah.
You know, your interactions are different. You have this confidence. And my wife, she said it yesterday. She was just like, it's like the love of God. Like when you know you have the love of God, you kind of just move through life differently.
Yeah.
Nothing can phase you. That confidence you have, that reassurance that I'm loved, that gives you a whole different beat of life. But I did want to talk about conflict resolution.
Okay.
Because y'all work together, you know, me and my wife, we work together. We've been working together. Like we came into the marriage we had things that we want to do together. So like we've kind of the past few years just kind of like, you know, figure out, we're still figuring out how to work together. A lot of patience.
Yeah.
A lot of patience. Sometimes it's, I'm gonna walk away from this right now.
Yeah.
You know, and then we'll come back.
Yeah.
But just speak a little bit about conflict resolution and some big things. I don't want you to give away all your content.
Oh no, I won't.
But-
I mean,
We got videos out there. People watch them.
but conflict resolution, it's a process, you know.
Yeah.
There are certain things in conflict resolution, learning to set boundaries, learning not, you know, for women, we have to learn that our tongue is a powerful tool, and you can use it to build your husband up or tear him down. So use it wisely, you know, not to, and for the husbands too, avoid those trigger moments. You know, there's those certain words you say that once you say it, she's going to go from 0 to 100. So learning to try to stay away from those spots.
Don't be petty.
Yeah, don't be petty. And as a lot of times someone might be saying, oh, it's easier said than done. No, it's something you have to be intentional about.
Right.
Because I know certain things that I could say that would get under his skin.
Yeah.
But why would I want to do that to someone that I promised to love and to cherish?
Right.
You know,
Right.
why would I want to do that to my best friend? I said I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you. So why am I going to tear you down?
Wow.
But you do have to do the same thing. You know, and so we had it's a process of learning, because we had to communicate it. When we first got married, we were living in 2 different cities. So we didn't argue because we only saw each other Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
We got mad. I'm like, look, that ticked me off. Don't do it again. Now let's go to the movies.
We
You know,
it
it was.
we here for a little
Yeah.
bit. This moment got to be real.
Right.
And then we went through that phase where everything made me mad. Everything, you know, it was just
Yeah.
like, but we're learning now
Yeah.
to it's really communicate. It's like, we have our little code words where you're getting close to that line, you know. We had to come up with a signal, you know, when I do like this, that means you said something that triggered me. And if I respond right now out of high emotions, it's going to come from low intelligence. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to disrespect you. So let's pause. You go in one room, I go in another room, and we just have to wait till we cool down. So then we can be like, come back and talk about it.
One of the strategies that we teach is when the verbal communication breaks down, and of course you have your safe word.
Yeah,
you know,
safe word.
Safe word after the verbal?
Well,
No,
safe word when you
we
get
get ready
there.
to get heated up,
Right.
and our intelligence is low. So when your intelligence is low,
Oh, yeah.
you don't know what you're saying. You're speaking out of your emotions.
Yeah.
See, when you're calm, you think before what you say. But when you're angry, you ain't thinking about. You just like all kind of crap come out your mouth.
Yeah.
You think about how I'm gonna hurt them with words.
Yeah.
So the code word got to come out. Okay, whatever the code word is, code blue.
Whatever your word is.
Go to
just-
your corners.
That means stop. No more
Stop.
talking at all.
So when the verbal communication breaks down, we got to do nonverbal. That's when you get your piece of paper, I get a piece of paper.
Write it out.
Write out. Okay, so if it's the whole relationship, you write down the top 2 issues that you have in the relationship that needs to be addressed. She writes down the top 2 issues that need to be addressed, right? Then I write down 2 things I feel that will resolve those top 2. So that's 4 things. 2 for the top one, 2 for the second one. Same thing with her.
Yeah.
Then we come together and we have our ground rules. No cell phones, no distractions, no kids,
No
no one, no interruptions. Then she read her top one, and I read, you know, she comes up with how she feels like she can resolve it, and then I do the same thing. Here go my top things I feel like I can resolve your issue. Then I read my top issue, same thing. I feel like here go, this is how we can resolve it, and then she say, hey, here are the things I feel like we can resolve it. And then you work on the top one first, you know, maybe something like, you know, her issue was the bed spread. When I make up the bed, don't go jump in it. So here's how I feel like we can resolve that issue. You know, I read what I have.
Right.
And then she said, okay, well, let's try that. You got to agree, because you got to make an effort.
Yeah.
And so that effort means, you know, that you have to make an effort and I have to make an effort. We're going to try that first thing. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we move to her suggestion of
Right.
how we can resolve it. And then you keep doing it until you find which one works.
Yeah, and then that way both people have a vested interest. You're both contributing, so it's not one-sided. You don't feel like I'm always trying to resolve the issues, and she's like, I'm always handling things. I'm always apologizing to him. No, you both have to. You come together, and it's a process.
Yeah.
But after a while, it becomes second. It becomes like second nature. Now we're able, when we're mad, to kind of just look at each other and be like, not today.
Not today.
Yeah, not today. I'm
And
tired.
the biggest issue when it comes to communication is the lack of. And so what we have to do, we have the repetition strategy.
Yes. we
So
do.
I say, Keisha, we're going to go to this appointment today at 2:00, and then we're going to have dinner. And then you say,
Then I would say, so what I'm hearing you say is, and then I repeat it back to him. So that way, if there's any miscommunication, that's an opportunity for him to clarify it without there being sarcasm or getting offended. No, babe, what I said was this and this. You're like, oh, okay. So you're being intentional about listening and making sure you're on the same page versus just assuming things and then having a big fallout because of it.
because that's the number one issue with women. Well, it's a top one. You don't ever listen to me.
Yeah.
And you're like, I heard you. Then what did I say?
What did I say?
Yeah. Put the remote down first. Put your phone away first, and then respond.
It's the Charlie Brown syndrome. As she's speaking, it goes, wah, 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 wah. You know Charlie Brown, right? And you hear that wah, 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 wah. And then you're like, yeah, you just like, yeah. You don't know what they say.
Nothing.
So that kind of clarifies that. Because, hey, she said, look, I need for you to go pick up the kids today at 2:00. And then, wah, 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 there's a football game on, wah, wah, wah. But then, now it's like, okay, now I have to clarify what I thought I heard her say. Because I can think, and I'm like, you said this, and I can repeat back what I thought she said. But then she said, no, that's not what I said.
I ain't say nothing like that.
Right. It wasn't, the cake is not supposed to be blue. Your birthday cake for your mom is supposed to be pink. I thought I heard you said blue. So now, if I would have went to Publix, ordered a blue birthday cake, came back, she said, I told you specifically to get a blue cake, and you went and got a pink cake. You know what I mean? Now I heard you said, Now I said, so I heard you say you want me to go get this cake, and you want it pink and green because you're AKA, and she's or red and white because she's a Delta, whatever. Oh, okay. She said, yes, that's exactly what I said. Boom. That is clarification.
Yeah.
But if I'd have gone what I thought she said, I'm in trouble.
Big blow up.
Big blow up. Right.
Because you're not listening.
Yeah.
And that's
There's just some few strategies and tips.
Yeah. And I think that what you both are saying is something that has to be worked out. Like it's not something that you get right away.
Right.
And I think in marriage we want that instant resolution sometimes. We want our problems to be solved right away.
Right.
But that's just not realistic. So how can people get a hold of the books or even follow you two and what you do? Like how can they do that?
Well, the central location would be marriagescanwin.com, and that's with the S, marriagescanwin.com. You can purchase all these books there. And the Marriage Can Win book actually is in audio form, digital form. We also have a workbook that has an assessment on your relationship, no matter where you are, in your marriage. Whether you're newlywed or if you're 30, 40 years, you do that assessment. You'll find out some things that you need to have a discussion. Also, that central location has the premarital stuff, like the topics that you need to discuss before you get married. The values, the roles of a husband and a wife, so you can agree or disagree. You need to have a discussion before you get married. And then we have singles books on there, men's dating guide, women's guide.
Wow.
We have a lot. And then we have our financial aspect on there. You can get a free needs analysis to help you to build and protect your wealth, talk about things as far as your future, where you want to go. All that's on there. Also, you can get both of these books anywhere on Amazon and other sites. I think almost anywhere you want to get a book for Marriage Can Win, Barnes & Noble, everywhere, all globally.
Wow.
And that one is Amazon Amazon. It's a couple of different places, but this one's
Yeah.
new,
Yeah.
so it's starting to matriculate globally.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
they can follow us on all forms of social media on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Everything's under Marriage Can Win.
Nice.
Oh, and don't forget that we do have
Oh,
2
YouTube,
radio
YouTube.
shows.
I
Yeah, we
forgot
got
about that.
YouTube.
Yeah,
We have 2
yeah.
radio shows. The first
Yeah.
show on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock is called Marriage Can Win.
Mm-hmm.
And actually tonight our show probably was airing. It's called Date Night with the Hylick. So it's
Yeah.
on Friday nights from 8 to 9, and on Saturday nights from 8 to 9, right before Midnight Love. Yeah, and then we have a podcast.
Yeah.
That's everywhere a podcast is. And 2 Amazon podcasts everywhere. Pandora, I think, all over the place. And that's 24-hour podcast. We have over 62 shows. 62 shows there.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all sitting down and talking to me. This was dope. Definitely gotta have y'all back, man. There's so much we didn't even get to touch, even the finance. I wanted to get on that too.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So look, appreciate y'all for watching the sit down. Thank y'all so much for watching this episode. And look, subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. Give this video a thumbs up. What you think about it in the comments. Like always, man, I know y'all subscribers because you're not gonna watch my content and not subscribe. All right. Also, shop the sit down. Yeah. See y'all next time. Deuces.